For our recording's sake, we are reviewing for the big test tomorrow. And I'm going to tell you a story, and we're going to see if you can put this into your calculator and give me an answer. In the year 1986, I graduated from high school, and this is true. My great-aunt Tilly gave me $2,000. That's not exactly true. And I put it into an IRA, and I let it grow, and I haven't taken it out, and it grew, let's imagine, that it grew at 8%. And the current year is 2026. I want to know how much money, see if I started with 2,000, would I have right now just from that one gift? Just let it roll. 8% growth. All right. So hopefully you know that that's an equation that would start with, normally we'd say u sub 0 because it's a real world problem. But I think you are getting, you should start it with u sub 1986 equals 2,000. Then always is a big word. U sub n minus 1. And then in here, I suggested it would be very smart for you to put 1 plus or 1 minus something. Is this problem a 1 plus? Yes. 1 plus 8? No. 0.8? No. 0.08. Okay. And then the last thing, if you were writing the equation, you're using a calculator, but it would be n is greater than or equal to what? 1987. Could you have written that? Now that I wrote it, do you get it? Okay. Now, can you put that in a calculator? That's a whole different thing. And then when you look at your table and it's like, whoa, I'm in a weird place on my table. Will you know how to change your table settings to start at 1986? Or you can start anywhere you want. And since I want to know what's the value in 2026, you could just start your table right there. Or you could have just said u sub 2026. See, that would have worked too. All right, please compare your answer for u sub 2026 with the kid next to you. Let's see if you got the same thing. Okay, so you have put that in your calculator. On your calculator, the first thing they ask is n min. You have to understand what that means. The first thing they ask for in the calculator, in sequence mode, is n min, and that's this. So you should have put 1986. Then you have un, and then you always can put u parentheses n minus 1. And then in this case, 1 plus 0.08. And then you only have to tell the calculator one more thing. How much money did you have in the first place? And that they call u and min. I totally get that some of you have a fancy pants calculator with better programming, and it will say, it'll transport this number down there for you. And then you tell it, I have $2,000 to start with. All right, and I think by now you have figured out u sub 2026. What'd you guys get?
43,449.
449. And do you know how to get it to the penny? If you don't, you should go learn how to move the cursor around. What is it to the penny?
0.04.
0.04. And again, I get how that seems like it's nothing, but when you're talking big companies and they do things times 1,000,000, they make 1,000,000 cars. 4 cents actually matters when you times it by 1,000,000. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to change this, and I want you to remember it was about 43,000, which is pretty cool. That 2,000 is now 43,000. That's awesome. But I just want you to see, what if it had been 10% growth? Instead of 8%, make it 10%. It'll be pretty quick to change that around and see how much more you would have had if you were able to get 10% growth. What'd you get?
$90,518.01.
Nice. Would you agree that that is more than double? It's a little counterintuitive, isn't it? It only went up 2%, but you got double. Do you see why people try hard to get the best return that they can on their money? Because literally 2% more could be double the money later. It's very counterintuitive. Your brain would have said, oh, it's only a little more. But, okay. All right, next thing. I'm going to tell you a news story. You change all the right things to see if you can answer this one. Not everything goes up like that. A lot of things go down in value. So I bought a TV in about the year 2010, and it was a real nice TV at the time. I got a good deal on it even, and it was $1,500. It was a flat screen TV. They were kind of new out there. I got one that was called a plasma TV. It was really good dark blacks, and it was great for watching movies and everything. But nowadays, you can buy those TVs so much cheaper. So, and a used TV from 2010, it's not going to be worth that much, right? All right, so use your skills now with your calculator and tell me if I can tell you that I checked the value of my used TV in 2011 and it had already gone down and I could have only sold it for $1,200, and by now it's way worse than that, you should be able to see what that percentage trend was and put it in your calculator and figure out in the year 2026, what's that TV worth now if it kept on decaying at that value? I'm going to pause for a minute and see if you guys got this. So you came up with my TV is worth $42 and how many cents? And 22 cents. Nice, that's correct. Okay, so if yours didn't come out to that, what I would do is I'd go to my Y equals screen and I'd ask my partner, okay, can I see your Y equals screen? Because every time somebody's answer's wrong, it's their Y equals screen. Maybe you typed in one number wrong, okay? All right. Now, this is important. I know that to get that answer, you had to divide these two numbers because it's called the common ratio. I'm just going to ask you, if I asked you for the common ratio, what would it be? And if I asked you for the rate, what would it be? Take a second and write those down on your iPad because this is the most common thing kids get wrong tomorrow. They don't know the difference. They don't know how to tell which one's which, and sometimes they just, yeah, this is the one people get wrong. So, what's the common ratio for this problem, and what was the rate for this problem? Then, talk to the kid next to you and see if you guys have the same answer. Okay, so a reminder of what a ratio is. A ratio is where you divide two numbers. And so this is 1,200. Notice I take the second number divided by the first number. And when you actually divide those, what is 12 divided by 15? It's 0.8. Now, 0.8 is not the rate. So when you made your equation un equals un minus 1, I bet most of you put 0.8 right there, and that's fine. But some of you listened to me before, and you were extra smart, and you put 1 minus 0.2. Now, I want you to think about why that would be an advantage. Because 0.8 is right. Why can't I just use 0.8? Because this tells me that the whole thing, that's the common ratio. This part of it, that's the rate. So the rate is 20%, and the common ratio, you could write 1 minus 0.2, or you could write 0.8. Either of those, they're equal, right? So I'd take either one. All right, so I want to show you an equation, and this one got so many people last hour, so don't underestimate this. I want to show you this equation, and tons of people do not get this answer right. If u sub n is equal to u sub n minus 1 times 0.3, I want to know what's the rate and what's the common ratio. It will get harder. This is the first one. they're going to get weirder. Okay, compare with the kid next to you. What do you guys think the rate is? What do you think the common ratio is? The common ratio is 0.3. That number is the common ratio. The rate. Is the rate 30%? No. Do you get, if somebody were to write this on your test, 1 minus 0.7, that would have been a huge, like if I walked by and said, parentheses, 1 minus 0.7, that'd be a huge hint, all right? Because the rate is actually 70%. So you should write that on your test. I can't go write that on your test, but you could. Write it as a 1 plus or a 1 minus something. All right, they get weirder. What if this same problem didn't have a 0.3? It had a 2 right there. Well, it's really easy. You're just timesing by 2. That's true. But what's the common ratio and what's the rate? Let's see if you at least agree with your partner. What do you think the common ratio is? What do you think the rate is? Okay, let's see if you got this. This is why I keep coming back to the kids who write it as 1 plus something or 1 minus something. If you get that skill down, then you got a superpower here. 1 plus 1 is 2, isn't it? How did I know it was 1 plus? Because that's bigger than 1. So it had to be 1 plus something. And 1 plus 1, and if I had written that on your paper, that would have been a huge hint that the common ratio is just this number. It's 2. The other one, though, is 100%. If you times something by 2, you got 100% growth. All right. So I need to know. I can't tell. Be honest. How many of you had that? All right, that's most of you. Good. Okay, one more. You divide your two numbers, and the answer is super small, 0.13. And so that's the common ratio. What's the rate? Can you answer all the questions, though? There's the common ratio. There's the rate. There's arithmetic or geometric. And there is, what's the other terminology thing? Let me think. Yup. What's the domain? I just added a little bit to my little formula here. What's the domain of the formula? What kind of formula is it? Not arithmetic or geometric. This is a different word. It's like what this chapter is all about. What kind of formula is that? All right, talk through those 5 answers. Common ratio, the rate. Is it arithmetic or geometric? What's the domain? And what kind of formulas are these? I'll pause. That last one's a little too hard. I'm going to say it starts with an R. So here's the ones you can skip on today's worksheet. Skip number 2, all the parts. Skip all of number 2. On number 3, you can skip A and B. And then all of number 7. So 2, 3A and B, and 7. And I think that'll make it more reasonably sized. I think you'll be able to have some practice at home, but not too much. Trying to find for the Goldilocks assignment there. Okay, and now I really hope that you come up and ask for help. I want to reinforce this. Walking up there and asking for help does not mean that, oh, you're dumb, you don't know. Everybody in this room is going to get stuck on something. Some people will handle it by talking to the kid next to them. That's cool. But the kids who walk up and ask me for help, they're probably going to average significantly higher than the average of the class because they're getting their problems fixed. So it's so counterintuitive. Kids think I look dumb if I walk up for help. Instead, you actually look like you care. So please walk up and ask for help, but only if the kid next to you is not explaining it well enough for you or they just don't know how to do it themselves. All right, that's all I got for you for today.